I wanted to keep listening to that song. So I kind of went a little blank for a second. Hello, guys. Welcome to K Talk Live. I haven't done this in a long time, I feel like. So I had to say hello. Do you guys notice my new office decor? Yeah. I have two offices, by the way. This is my regular office and this. Okay. So do you see this? Do you see that? Yeah. It looks very familiar, right? So I forget, as an author, I get my books. So when I got a delivery today, I'm like, what's this? Hello, everyone. Where are you guys dialing in from? I know, I'm so glad I came on today too. It is a little after 8 p.m. Eastern, again, in the Eastern time zone. This is the actual book, guys. Before I had an advanced reader copy, this is the actual book. Some of you already have the book. Put in the chat box who already has my book and what city you're in. Hello from Connecticut. Zoe from Minneapolis. Hi. Lisa, Krista. Oh my goodness. Love it. Oh my goodness, Sophie. What time is it over there? Hello, Joss. I see Bettina. Tell me, you guys, who has the book? Some of you already have the book. I got quite a few DMs of folks from all over. I thought maybe it was just California or LA, but then some people from New York got it. Alabama. Okay, your book is shipped. Wow. London. Hello, London. What time is it in London? Ooh, isn't it like midnight in London or 1 a.m.? I know some people did not get my book yet, but I just had to show this off because as an author, I got some books and I decided to decorate my office with it. Some will be taken with me when I travel tomorrow morning to give as gifts, because there's some folks that I really want to give my book to because they have been helpful. So that is that. You pre-ordered. Okay, some people, yeah, you're getting it tomorrow. Some people might get it. Apparently there's some delay with some locations. So I have folks living in LA and they're not getting it till May 8th. So I feel bad about that. Yes, I do know you from Ottawa. Hello. And I'm so glad. Let's get started, actually, because I have lots to share and then I don't want to be up for, I basically have a 6 a.m. flight. So I'm like, I have to get ready to sleep. I'm really sleep deprived, by the way. I don't know if you could tell, but because of my new Clio press cushion, hopefully it covers the circles. Okay. And then my hair. I did my hair because I had meetings today. I wanted to look good. All right, let's get started. Updates. You guys, the tours. Yes, Damaris, you could buy it on Amazon. Please do. I am still on a high. In fact, did we actually have those tours? Like, are you guys thinking it's surreal? Even I think that, because I'm like, did I really see these people in April? Were we really here? I still have to, in some sense, remind myself that you guys on my tours met me in Korea. Like, you met me in Korea, right? And it's just so special. And then I was thinking this, let me tell you what's even more special, guys. For those who go on the tours, you get connected via WhatsApp, also via Instagram or Facebook. The whole point is connecting you, because that's what makes my tour. You know, it's not me. It's not yes, it's the Korean culture and everybody and me there too, but it's really you guys and the community and being together. So I absolutely love, because sometimes I can't catch up, just FYI, on the WhatsApp threads or the Instagram threads, when I decide to glance at things and I see, like, I don't know, 122 like text messages, WhatsApp messages on one thread. And then another thread's like another 80. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, because WhatsApp combines them. So it's just so funny. And it's funny and touching that everybody keeps in touch. And look at this thread here. People saying hello from the tours. Who is going on my fall tours, my summer and fall tours? I need to know, because I want you to say hello here. So that's just the wrap up the tours. There's so much more to say. I will do more talking about it, but there's such special memories and each group is so unique. But I feel like I'm lucky because I get to know each group. Now I have the staff who also gets to know each group, but like the tour guide is different depending on what tour you're in. So it's really, really special that I get to see, me and my husband actually get to see different parts of my community. Oh, okay. Last October tour. Yes, the weather is going to be great. We left and it was getting hot already in Korea. So then let's go to my travels. Who is joining me in Oakland? So the Bay Area, put it in the chat box. Who's joining me in Los Angeles? And then New York City, and then finally DC. Now, DC, here's the QR code for all the book talks. I would sign up for DC ASAP just because the space is more limited there. I think it's like 50 or something. So make sure you do, because I know that I have quite a few in DC. And then I get some DMs saying, oh, I hope that I have the courage to say hello. I'm like, hello, I hope I have the courage to talk to you guys because I'm super nervous. I've never done a book talk on my own book. Like I've done tons of talks. Like I could talk about the toughest things, like trauma, and then K-dramas and Queen of Tears, which we're going to be talking about, and grief and all that stuff, and PTSD. But then if I talk about my book and myself, that's nerve-wracking. So I will really welcome the tour folks, because I'll be like, oh, familiar face. And people are actually coming, So I'm so excited for people who are coming. Yay, New York. I can't wait to see you guys in New York. There's a couple in New York and 2 in LA in the same place. Those are 2 special places. And I'm launching the book releases on May 7th in the stores, like Barnes and Nobles and all that. That'll be fun. I should go around to the stores and look for my book. Toronto is on the list. It's actually number 2 on the list of things to plan in the summer, because I have short time in May, but I'll come back in the US in the summer, and then I'll do another. Houston's already on there, Austin, and then Texas, just because of talks I'm doing, and Toronto, and then hopefully Chicago. I think those are the priority, and then Seattle. Yeah, I'm trying to get to you all. So that's my book tour. So please say hello to me and know that I'll be nervous talking about my book, and then I'll be showing K-drama clips at all these book talks. Of course, if there's a book talk you want to see, if there's a K-drama clip you want to see, put in the chat box. Okay, Vancouver, you know what? No, but I would like to go there. So again, it's about finding a host organization. Just so you know how this book talk works, is finding a host organization that I want to partner with. Number 1, I do look for nonprofits because I want to benefit them. Number 2, I do look for Asian nonprofits just because my background and it just fits. And someone's saying pizza. It's an inside joke. Yes, I will try to make it for pizza. And then the third is just an organization that believes in my work, right? So it's all about finding a host org, not Jeannie Chang. I would go to every city in America and the world if I could. It's about the organization that's going to host me. Just FYI. If you have an organization that wants to host me, let me know. Okay, let's get into the deep dives. I know I want to see all you guys. I'm trying to make sure. Did anybody read my book so far? It's like kind of nerve-wracking. But K-drama deep dive, Queen of Tears. Yay, I'm glad you signed up for LA. Yes, at the book event, of course, all the books will be there. I'll be signing them with my special pens. By the way, I can't find my pens that I bought. So I'm like, what? Because I bought these little cute little pens. But I will find them. But yes, there'll be books for you to purchase, and bring your books for me to sign. Queen of Tears it was kind of cool to be in Korea during Queen of Tears. First of all, I was on my tour, but randomly, anytime I go into a store, if I'm talking to somebody, or if I'm like, getting hair done or skincare or doing something or having business meetings, I'll always ask what K-drama people are watching. 100 out of 100, like 100% of people mentioned Queen of Tears. So it was definitely the trending K-drama. Just like when I was in the summer of 2022, I was in Korea. Extraordinary Attorney Woo was the trending K-drama, but Queen of Tears was a little bit of next level. So let's talk about the ratings. Yes, it surpassed Crash Landing. How do you feel about that? Put that in the chat box. I asked because there's some hardcore Crash Landing fans, including myself, but it's by the same writer. So I feel like it kind of evens out. And I also know the people behind Queen of Tears. So I was really hoping it would break records, 4 years later than Queen of Tears, because that's a big deal to break records. And it did. But not everybody agrees. So I was just curious about that. But it definitely broke records. Now, when it says it breaks records, it means local records, because people were confused. The ratings are based on South Korea alone, right? Now, not globally. Now, that's Korea can't judge all that, but we can gauge. But globally, Queen of Tears did not, or has not done as well as it did in South Korea. So that's why it broke the TVN record, which is huge, because TVN has some great K-dramas and surpassed some of my favorites like Goblin and Reply, 1988. But again, the ratings are based on local ratings, not the global ratings. But to this day, Crash Landing is still ahead in the global ratings. And that is according to the Queen of Tears folks. Because that's what people don't know it's rated that way. So it's, again, rated based on South Korea. So anytime you see ratings, numbers, South Korea ratings. That said, it was my favorite K-drama of the moment. It's actually the only one I was watching because I had no time to watch anything else, but I actually loved it and had every makings of a global hit and a sensational hit in Korea, of course. Chloe is better. And again, let me just start with the term suspension of disbelief. I have to say this because I got numerous DMs about medical and clinical healthcare controversies in Queen of Tears. And I have a lot to say about that because I'm in that's actually my background, clinical care. So I have lots to say about there, but I'd like to say this. The suspension of disbelief is very much real in this case, meaning this is a term that I didn't make up, but it just means that we kind of have to pause our realistic perspectives to grasp and understand the narrative that we're reading. For instance, or watching. Crash Landing, okay, ain't no way that's really going to happen in real life, right? North Korea, South Korea, soldier coming over. She lands in South Korea, in North Korea, that kind of thing. Suspension of disbelief. In Queen of Tears, it was very much needed when it came to the whole medical part of things. I had some people who, yes, from Europe. This is why I love my global community, where they talk about them being a physician or a clinician in Europe or a therapist in Europe. And then we're talking and it's so much fun. But yeah, obviously all of that HIPAA, sorry, that's the US word, but patient confidentiality, that was tossed out the window, right? And you see that all the time in Korea. But I also think their HIPAA laws or their patient privacy laws are different. And you can give permission here in the US, right? For a family member to take that if you're unable to take the medical news or clinical news. I also can provide information on a client or patient if that client or patient gives me a signed release. So that does happen, but it has to be signed. But the number one thing I had to bring up was Yoon Eun Sang, the antagonist. I like to use that word, or people like you saying villain. Taking over Hong Hae-in's care. Yeah, that's not possible, obviously. So when people said, is that realistic? No, that's not realistic. I don't even know how that happened, but that's part of the story. Suspension of disbelief. And I use that suspension of disbelief a lot, believe it or not, because I'll watch something and be like, okay, that's so not like possible. And you'll hear me mention something when it comes to therapy, my expertise. I don't like to comment too much on the medical part. That's not so much my expertise, but I'll say, hey, that's inaccurate. Let me explain this. So you've seen me explain things if it's inappropriately shown. But a lot of it, of course, is a drama. So it's for dramatic purposes. I'm looking at questions. Yeah, someone was saying put off by her illness. You can explain what you mean by that, or you can talk to me offline about it. Now, her illness, I didn't even have time to talk to my father, who's a neurologist. So this would be his thing. But obviously, a brain tumor is very much real. Memory loss, all that is part of, yes, from what I know, a brain tumor. And I think she had a specific term for her illness, which I'm drawing a blank from it. And I think that's legit, So obviously some things are probably exaggerated when it came to symptoms. Again, I'm not a neurologist, but knowing memory and how all that impacts the brain, yeah, that's totally realistic, And so I wanted to share that. But if you want to elaborate, let me know what you think about that. The best thing I loved about Queen of Tears is family. So I will always gravitate to the family dramas. When you see multi-generations, and yes, you see the drama of a Chaebol family, and a lot of that is realistic, right? The fight over money and power. I think that's very much realistic, even in real life, and obviously dramatized in this. But that was still good to see. But what I like to see is how there was this navigating of the grief. And that's actually the very first question. So I'm going to wait on that. But navigating a very, very big mental health condition in different ways, meaning each family member addressed it differently or didn't address it differently. And each family member had its role or his role. And I love each person. I'm talking about two families, right? The Hong family and the Peck family, right? That was in the village, Yongduri, the neighborhood. That is also heartwarming when you see that interaction and when both worlds collided. Those are probably my favorite episodes. And I think we agree that we like that. The Queen of Tears title, Tears. Someone said to me, actually not someone, several people have said to me they're not watching Queen of Tears. It looked too sad. They see it all over TikTok and Instagram, people crying. But I actually said it wasn't sad. That's my opinion. I didn't think it was sad. There were sad moments for sure, but just because you cry doesn't mean you're crying because you're sad. In fact, a lot of times you cry for other reasons. Frustration. People can cry out of frustration. People can cry out of anger too. People cry out of like heartbreak. That could be sadness too, but heartbreak could feel differently. You also cry when you're very, very touched. And that is probably what I believe is the top reason why folks cried, meaning they were so touched by the just the heartwarming aspect of a marriage changed, or as you see the growth, or Hong Hae-in dealing with her illness, her own personal growth, Baek Hyun-woo's personal growth, all those tears, then they're crying. Kim Soo-hyun is king of tears, just a great actor who does so well. So of course you're relating to those tears. So a lot of that was empathy, compassion, but not only sadness. So that's my answer to that, because I got a lot of questions of going, I don't want to watch it. It seems so sad and she's dying. Yeah, it sounds sad, but I really believe through it all, there was a lot of hopefulness. And then you're seeing family members changing, and you're seeing her changing, and you're seeing their marriage shifting. The other part I want to address is how he started with, Baek Hyun-woo started with hatred. He really, really strongly, I would call it contempt, which is a term in marriage therapy, contempt for one another. Yes, that exists. A lot of folks struggle with that too, going, Jeannie, I really didn't like the way he was hateful. Like he actually wanted her, quote unquote, to die. And then he finds out she's dying. Now, in reality, or based on his character, I don't think it's real death. They're saying, yes, I just have so much contempt for my wife. And you see that there's contentious divorces, contentious relationships, abusive ones, that there is such strong contempt. And by the way, when there's contempt in a marriage, in a relationship, it is the key factor to divorce. This is based on research, based on my own experience of working with couples, which I no longer do because I wanted to focus on trauma. But also working with couples was probably one of the hardest things I've done. Forget trauma. Trauma is like, I could do that. But working with couples was very difficult because there was always like one person taking a side and someone thinking that I was taking their side. And I'm sharing that because when you see a couple relationship like this, someone's going to take a side. Like you guys might have taken a side going, oh my goodness, how could this be done to Baek Hyun-woo? Oh my goodness, Hong Hae-in was going through her own grief. The reality is all of that was threaded through every person. Let me pause as I'm seeing so much going on here. Oh, I will talk about the memory thing. That was a great question from somebody. I'm going to talk about that, but it is a big part of it. Okay, someone said the tears were cathartic. Yeah, and that's I think I can relate to the brain. Okay, so TBI is traumatic brain injury. That I would say I treated several TBI patients when I was in primary care. And yes, it's very much there, memory loss, fogginess, not knowing who you are. So memory and identity correlate. I'll talk about that more. But I wanted to talk about his shift from contempt. So yeah, key factor of divorce. He wanted to divorce her. There was also contempt of the family he had. So there was a lot of factors we watched going into it, but then it shifted, yes, when she shared about her illness. And I think that does happen where you get news and you realize, okay, I still feel this anger and contentment, but let me put it on hold because this is big news and someone told me they're dying. So when they were saying that he still wanted her dead, and it was like, remember the comedy scenes early on? It was actually very comedic early on, which I was cracking up laughing, which is part of the experience. I think that was the comedy effect, meaning they're going to dramatize that in a drama of how much he would running around the house because he was so upset and angry, and the family members showing this, I don't know, just such contempt for him as well and disrespect. Again, part of the drama. So I think that's really, really important. Even with contempt, you can still love. No, of course, you can still love. But again, that is one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. If there is contempt, that is not good, meaning there shouldn't be contempt. You can experience that in moments of your marriage, but the hope is not to keep that up or have it. because again, that's a key factor of divorce or a broken relationship, along with criticism, stonewalling. That is all part of it. These are all what we call the apocalypse, four horsemen of the apocalypse. So I think that's really, really important to understand. So I wanted to share that, saying I'm not condoning that he at one point thought, oh my God, I want her dead, haha, but that was part of the comedy, I believe. And then the other parts I wanted to address is how I loved, and I think this was some of the moments that you guys shared. I'm so blank with all the responses, how they shifted in the end, the family picture. Do you remember that? That was in the final episode. There are very key moments in the final episode that were really well done. That was one of them. Replace the beautiful work of art, which they showed a lot of in this drama, and replace it with a huge family photo above their fireplace was really special. That to me signifies just their healing and their two families that really got to know each other. That doesn't always happen, right? When you have in-laws coming together, though I see lots of in-law families very close. So I think that's super important. But I loved that moment where it was so different in the beginning. And I think that's part of what made the drama have that appeal, a dramatic transformation. Transformation. All right, let's go with questions because I think there's 12 questions that I chose out of like tons. Let's go with number one because I think that's, I've been dying to talk about this main topic. Grief was a key factor in this drama, not just the marriage. Grief and trauma go hand in hand. I have found that. Because it can be traumatic when you're going through whatever grief circumstance it is. Here, let's just talk in their marriage, death of a child, death of their unborn baby, and then the parents' death of their son, and then Hong Hae-in, the death of her brother, right? So all of that is that grief, and they all processed it very differently. Some would say similarly, but I think it was very different. So grief was the core mental health theme here. And how they navigated through it or how they did not navigate through it was examples of showing you, oh my goodness, they didn't talk about it for years. It was something they avoided, but that's very realistic in families, Asian families for sure. But in many families, people are like, let's not talk about a tragic drowning because it's very difficult to, it's very dramatic too. But I will say in the end, healing happens when you navigate through it, when you actually face it, you become stronger. I always like to compare it with the wave. When you're in the beach, when you're on the beach, you know how there's waves and you would get knocked down a wave, even if you're on shore, like if you're wave hopping or whatever it is, my kids would love to do when you boogie boarding, right? You got to look at the wave to know when it's coming or you'll literally get dunked under. The wave could be like the grief. And so if you don't look at it, it could be in many different forms, big, small. It could dunk you and swallow you within, and you are trying to figure out what that looks like, right? And it doesn't feel good. Like when you're dunked under a wave, which has happened to me, it feels yucky, right? And it kind of burns all that feeling. I'm kind of painting you that picture because you got to see the wave and go, oh, there's a big one. Oh, I'm going to jump. I'm going to swim through it. I'm going to, okay. Oh, that's another big one. Oh, that's a small one. Facing those fears or facing the grief or the stresses just helps you be less uncomfortable, but you'll still be uncomfortable. So think about it when you're on the shore and it's so much fun being at the beach. You're like, oh, that's a big wave with your kids and you're holding their hands, but it's still that uncomfortableness, but in a different way. Is that making sense? So really important still to face that issue, face any issue. It's uncomfortable, but you're building your distress tolerance level. And that is so important because what happens? Look at what happened to their marriage early on. It does happen that way. It breaks up. Now, that's why I say it'll make or break. When you actually face that grief together, it can make your relationship. Yes, it can. People will be like, oh, even if you face the grief, can you still break up? There'll be other reasons for it, but at least the grief part will have been, I guess, addressed. Does that make sense? There may be other reasons why a couple may break apart. But I guarantee if you actually face that grief, whether it's together separately or discussing it, it is going to help the relationship. Let me pause here. Yeah, the discussion of the baby, it was barely discussed. And do you think they addressed the death of their child enough? No. Heck no, definitely not. And so that would have been a wish of mine, of course. But I thought about it because again, this is my own suspension of disbelief. Like, did they have to address it? Well, they had a bigger issue currently, which was her own impending death, right? But Yeah, it would have been great as for viewers and for people's healing to see them address that death. And we believe it's a miscarriage, right? So it would have been nice to be like, do you remember that moment in a very brief, direct conversation? So yes, it was a miscarriage. Okay. Yeah, the death as an out. Right, and the grief there too, also, he had his own grief, maybe a grief of imagining a marriage that he didn't get early on. That's grief too. It's like, think about you imagining this situation and you end up grieving it because it wasn't what you had planned. So I think he was experiencing that, and then double whammy with the death of a child. I think he was just in dire straits. Now, they all had different stages of grief. His was clearly more depression, maybe shock, bargaining. These are different. Bargaining is more like, maybe if I had another child with Hayne, we would be much better off. Maybe if this was here, it would be much better off. That's the bargaining. I kind of saw that in him. She went straight to anger. So if you saw that, it was like she did everything, like cut out all the baby stuff. Do you remember those scenes? Like, take it out, do this, this. Now, clearly, we see as viewers the pain she's going through, but she went straight to that angriness of like, yeah, who cares? Like, remember that one scene where she's like, well, we don't have a baby, so why not get rid of the furniture? It was very cold, but that's her grief. It can come out in anger. And I will tell you, depending on your personality, people do go straight to anger. I see it in actually parents a lot because they get angry for their child, or they get angry for, like, especially their children, or they get angry for their family members. I see it a lot in parents where they go straight to anger because they're grieving that. Depression is also a common thing, but so are the others. Very important to understand each stage of grief is very unique and I think it's really important that people understand and respect that not everybody grieves the same. I keep saying that, but I see in family members, people say all the time, Jeannie, he won't talk about it or she won't talk about it. And I'll be like, okay, well, I think you have to understand he's still grieving. Then they're like, is he really? Right? There's always that doubt of, or the bitterness of like, is this person really grieving because they're not sharing? But I can guarantee they are. Again, they're just really trying to come up with their own way of navigating it. But always important to address it. Doesn't mean you talk about it, but it could be you getting your own help or you find ways of dealing it on your own. I really believe that. Just because some people talk about their grief doesn't mean that's the best way to navigate it. Am I making sense? Because I've seen some people go through their own grief in like therapy sessions without talking about it much, and I see them healing. And so it's really personal how you deal with it. I already feel like my kind of personality, I can teeter through both anger and depression. So I already know myself, right? Like, I'm thinking, even a pet death that really hit me, like shockingly hit me, I didn't go to anger, I went to depression, but I could see myself teetering between two based on personality. So really knowing yourself, but just giving yourself grace through the grief is really important. Um, can you mention about grief and how the Asian culture can manage it? Oh yeah, that's a whole nother topic. Uh, Grief is also seen in some sense in certain cultures. Expression, if it's too much expression, there's some shame and guilt around it. Like, I shouldn't be grieving, or I should be grieving more, so I shouldn't have fun. I see this a lot too. It is very important to heal through your grief by adding some happiness, right? And that's why I think the emotional numbness that comes with trauma, I always say, don't stay numb. Numb is normal, but you stay numb, you'll stay numb to the happy emotions. Like, I need you to feel happy emotions. You have to survive that way. So when people say to me, this person died, and I see everybody else, and I go, clearly I'm really sad. I am grieving, Jeannie, but here's how I'm dealing with it. I'm still going on with my life. And I'll actually say that is very smart to keep going through your schedule. People see that as callous, but do you know that's a number one trauma coping skill? Sticking with your schedule. So please understand, because I share this because people will say things all the time to me going, they're not grieving or they're not sad. We're really mad at them. And that's so hard when you know they are sad. So Hong Hae-in, even though she was so cold and callous, you saw that moment, and I shared it in one of my reels because I thought it was really well done, how much in pain she was. In fact, I would say she'd probably feeling the pain even more physically as a mother, right? It's very difficult to experience that. A miscarriage is terrible. No matter how early, late can even be worse when you actually have to give birth. So we don't even know if that happened. Like, sometimes I want to know if it was late in life, which I have counseled folks through that. It's very traumatic. Um, Thanks for sharing that. People going straight to anger. I saw a lot of that in the midst of the pandemic. People going straight to anger. Like, why? I'm so angry. So grief is a huge part of this entire K drama. Oh, let me just pause on the mom. Haynes' mom went straight to anger, blamed it on her daughter. I see that too. That is very sad. But yeah, they lost 20 plus years. Was it maybe more than that? In the sense of a relationship because of her own grief and her trying to figure that out. So again, understandable from a therapist perspective. But yes, if I was in the midst of that, if I was her daughter, I think that's very, very heartbreaking to experience. And I think we saw a glimpse of that. I forgot to mention this because I don't think this is in one of my questions. Absolutely loved their conversation at near the end when the mom's like, I know we've, reconciled, but I don't know how to relate with you. I love that. That is so, so real because there's no way after 20 years of estrangement in a family where you know how to relate just like that. Even if you reconcile going, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. I took my anger out on you, losing our son, your brother. How could I do this? And you're dying. I love you. All of that was there. And it was very heartwarming. And we're so glad to see that. But we also saw the reality of a mom who didn't know and a daughter going, it's okay. I know this is how we related. So let's be ourselves, our safe people. But we just know that wall is gone. And that in itself is enough to heal. Does that make sense? You don't have to be besties. It may not ever happen in a relationship, but at least the healing has actually arrived, and then you're just navigating through the healing. That's the easy part. Just wanted to bring that up. So that was my favorite. That was one of my favorite scenes. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's perfectly well done. Okay, number 2. Okay, I'm already talking longer than I thought I would. Okay, what's the second question? What are your thoughts on the redemption arcs for several of the secondary characters? I'll answer this quickly as I can. I thought they were great. So the secondary characters would be like the brother's wife. I mean, that was the main person I was really thinking. And I didn't see that coming, that she would come back. I don't know why. I don't know why I thought, I guess a K-drama, of course she'd come back. But I really think it's neat that she did. I thought she was so far gone, having manipulatively weaved herself into the family. I was so thankful to see that she came back. And obviously she was craving a kind of love that she never had, right? Pause. Jojo, no. Hayan, I don't think realized Hyunwoo saved her. So that's one of the things missed, and I think that's later on a question, but I think that's okay. Yes, I would have liked that, but we know it as viewers. I think they wanted us to know it as viewers, right? So I really thought, going back to the secondary character, particularly hers, I thought it was well done. Now, if we're going to talk about the antagonist, the villain, I'm still processing his death. So if you're watching this, spoiler, yeah, I'm still processing that because I don't necessarily like seeing bullets, like blood, shot in a K drama to the caliber of Queen of Tears. Does that make sense? But it does make sense because he was shooting at her. So I guess that's what the cops had to do. So do you see what I'm doing? I'm kind of balancing both my own feelings of that. Like, did he have to die? Well, he went that way. He went dark and was about to kill somebody and pretty much shot somebody. So yeah, I guess that happens and that would be realistic. But I think his redemption wasn't there, right? So it just kind of ended with his death. And maybe that's how it could be. But again, I'm still processing going, would I want him to die? Because I felt sorry for him. I mean, I also hated him, which was great on screen because you get those emotions. By the way, feeling those range of emotions are actually good when you're like, yay, happy. Oh my gosh, so touching, crying. And then, oh my gosh, I can't stand him. It's actually healthy to feel all that. And so even we're watching and I kid you not, my husband's like, oh my God, did he just do that? I'm kind of having fun going, oh my God, did he just do that? It's kind of fun. It helps. It just kind of helps with those emotions. And you just know it's a despicable character. Well acted, by the way. One side note, because I got some inside scoop on Queen of Tears, super, super good guy. Do you know his background's in theater? So he is a good actor. He got discovered late. So I think a lot of folks in the industry are so happy he's getting recognized, sure, for the bad roles of The Glory and this one, his bad, mean roles, but shows a really, really, really good actor. And he comes from that theater background, so he can really express that way. And I find theater actors tend to be really good on screen. And I heard he's getting lots of accolades for his work. Of course, there's some fan bases that apparently there's lots of hate on his Instagram, which I did not go on, that people are like, you terrible person, you. But Those people obviously must understand this is not the reality. He is playing a character. That's unfortunate, but that's that parasocial relationship that people can't, separate. And you do see that. So that is realistic, but that's poor on him. But I think he's handling it well if you look at his interviews. And I think he's proud of his work, and he should be. And I think it's only going to elevate his work. And maybe we'll see him as like a lead, right? He was actually a good lead in Not Others. I loved his character in Not Others. And then someone mentioned he was in something else that I didn't see, but he deserves a lot of accolades. Park Sung-hoon, really good actor. And I heard very well respected in this industry and very well liked. So I had to share that. Yeah. You see his outtakes, very sweet, very funny. Someone asked me this, and I asked this of Queen of Tears folks, like, hey, must have been emotionally hard for them to act. Some actors need to meditate before they go into a really dramatic scene, like crying, like Kim Soo-hyun's dramatic scenes. But apparently he was cracking up and laughing right before he acted. And that's what I was told, which shows you the caliber of acting. Because even the person told me was like, we were like, oh my God, you were just joking and now you're bawling. And that's just a sign of a good actor able to do that. But also people want to do that. I'm actually like that too. I need to do something fun and, I don't know, fun, crazy, whatever, before I have to address trauma or after a traumatic session. Yeah, I don't necessarily go into my hole. It's not good for me. So it's that concept, which I can completely understand. I'm sure he says, don't hate me. I'm sure it bothers him a little bit, but I also do sense that he knows these are people who are confused with reality. Exactly. People don't separate from the actor role of the actor. Also, where did I see it before in real life? It's very difficult to, because you're so invested. Now, those are the people I will say, I say it in my book, that if you teeter between reality and virtual, or sorry, the storytelling on screen, and you can't separate them, then I need you to stop, take a break from K-dramas or any kind of show, because that means it's too much for you. You're not absorbed in real life. How I use K-dramas is to benefit your mental health in real life, right? To be a better person in real life, to be just happier in real life, or to navigate your own mental health conditions, but not to get out of reality. So I always emphasize that, and that's in my book. And so that would be those folks. I'd be like, yeah. And I've said it before. I'd be like, yeah, I need you to stop watching. I think I've said it bluntly, going, stop watching, or just literally do 15 minutes. And that doesn't mean the person always listens, but yeah, there's some people who need to separate that reality from on-screen drama. Let's go to the next question. Oh, he's a great actor, hence why he's one of the top paid actors in the K-drama industry. What do you see yourself using in therapy sessions from this series? Grief, number one. I am a grief specialist. I am a trauma specialist. I got special even certifications on top of my license because I was seeing so much in my work pre-pandemic. And then can you imagine post-pandemic, how much more I'm seeing? So I'm always talking about grief, and the grief and trauma chapters in my book are the longest because there's so many examples of K-dramas. And I didn't even put Queen of Tears in because obviously this came after, but I think there's so many more I would add after I wrote the book. That just goes to show you how grief is a very, I would say, common condition and topic. And grief does not mean loss of a loved one only. It means loss of anything, safety, psychological safety, trust, right? A relationship, a breakup, grieving what could have been. Yes, all of that. So that's why it's so common. And that's why I would definitely use their relationship example. And any reel that you've seen I've done, I probably could do more because I was busy, but that I would use those in sessions. So let's go. Yeah, entire cast was amazing. Next one. And there are some of them are veteran actors. This is a great question. So how much is memory related to identity or sense of yourself? 100%. 100%. Now, do you know the field of psychotherapy, my field, started in the field of neurology. I tell my dad that because he's a neurologist, retired, but I'm like, Appa, did you know neurology, psychotherapy, mental health, basically what I'm doing, originated from your field? And I say this kind of obnoxiously because sometimes my parents, as educated as they are, don't get what I'm doing. There are times they're like, what is it? And they even with my book, they're like, so well, obviously they can read my book, but they were like, we're trying to understand. And I'm sharing this because neurology has so much, the impact of neurology, mindfulness has so much impact on your brain. So if we're talking memory, Okay, I'm going to get a little technical because I'm actually doing a mindfulness workshop in San Diego. Your brain called the brain part called the hippocampus, which is very much impacted by mindfulness. You want to practice mindfulness for the sake of the hippocampus and other parts of the brain, but the hippocampus is responsible for learning, memory, and emotions. You want to protect the hippocampus. So when you practice mindfulness, brain scans show the protection, like the brain matter around it thickens. So think about when you're stressed and your hair starts falling out. That happens a lot post-pregnancy. I'm saying that because I think I lost chunks of hair. People have shared with me stress that they're losing hair. That's the first thing that they tend to see. And so think of that when it comes to the hippocampus. The more stressed you are and not practicing mindfulness, the brain matter thins. And so you're not protecting the hippocampus responsible for learning, memory, emotions. So how that directly correlates? Well, that the memory you have, past, present, not future, but past and present, impacts your identity. What you remember impacts your identity. So Hong Hae-in losing all of that, according to her surgery, and she lost her memory, of course, impacts who she is. And so she, of course, the villain told her who she was or everything. And then she obviously figured things out herself, which I really believe can happen, being like, wait, that doesn't make sense because then I read my journal and this is what it says. Or, my mom, who I don't remember much of, is telling me this, right? So it is a direct impact, meaning, sadly, think of Alzheimer's, dementia. When you lose that memory previously, yes, you do lose your entire sense of self. That's why it's so sad to see memory loss, or so sad to see. And like you can get emotional because you see it. And like we're dealing with my mother-in-law. Now I would say early signs of dementia, but still you're like, oh my goodness, she has no idea who I am because I came in the latter part of her life. So that completely, in some sense, they're also trying to figure out who they are if they don't remember you and you're telling them who you are. Does that make sense? So I can't explain it technologically. That would be my dad, and I didn't have a chance to talk to him, but neurology, brain, all of that impacts it. So yes, you lose those memories, you lose your sense of self. And you remember, in fact, who I am today as a clinician and as a mom, all based on my own experiences, memories that I had from over 20 years. Does that make sense? Neuropsychiatry over here. Yeah, neuropsychiatry. Yes. I love that. Neuropsychiatry, which is why I love some of the people that I work with. Thank you for that. In the hospital scene in Germany, Hanu shared the things he wants Han to approve. And one of the things he said was not to get angry easily when they have difficult conversations. Did I miss something? Are you just sharing that? That's actually good feedback. Meaning, if they're going to share things as they're in a new part of their relationship, why not be honest saying, because some people have a short temper. And I'm one of those. I have a short temper. The good thing about people with short tempers, though, that they don't hold grudges. So there's some folks, maybe you're slow to anger, but you hold grudges. Neither is good nor bad because it's all personality and how you handle things. So some people will be like never angry, never angry, never angry, and then they snap and they will be mad at you for the rest of their life. And I'm kind of exaggerating. Or someone like me who loses temper quickly and I get mad because something made me mad and lash out, and then I'm like, oh, I'm good now. What? I forgive you. So I don't hold grudges. I feel like that's good. No, I'm kidding. But I'm just laughing because you see this in relationships all the time. Again, it's how your personality is. And I guess he shared. And he was probably the opposite, which I could gauge. He would probably, would be slow to anger, but then held that grudge. Hence the contempt he had early on in the marriage. So that's still good advice to share that with your spouse, going, hey, I wish you didn't get angry as quickly. Is there a way that you could, work that out first, or give yourself a timeout, which I also address with parents and couples to give themselves timeout. Difficult conversations, when you communicate with difficult conversations, FYI, don't do it in the heat of the moment. Actually, I always recommend you have those difficult conversations when you're in a good place. Hence the example of the drama where they were in a good place and they're like, while we're talking about it, I'd like to share about, I wish you were better with this. You're actually more apt to hear it, not when you're talking things out. Like, let's talk things out. I'm really angry with you. Here's what I'm going to say. Not going to go down very easily. Think about it on the receiving end. Would you hear them say that to you and you're already mad? No. But when you're in a good place, you could even preface it with, hey, okay, so I do want to mention this. It always hurts me when this happens, but I want to share this. And it's, again, much better accepted. So again, do it when you're both in a good mood, actually. And then I'll have people fight me going, that doesn't make any sense. Then you could be in a bad mood. I go, no, not if you handle it well. If you're like, hey, while we're at it, like we're in a really good place. Can we stay in this way? How I want to stay this way is I really want us to talk about things better. I want us to address the grief that we experience. Examples like that. Okay, next question. How did Yoon Eun Sang become the guardian of Germany? I addressed this. Yeah, that's unrealistic. I don't even know how that happened. Suspension of disbelief. I was like, what just happened? But then I was like, I'm going to go with it because it's part of the drama and you saw that coming, right? He was plotting to take over her life and be part of her life. Let's go on to the next question and I'll answer Joss's question. What do you think of Yoon Eun Sang and Mo Soo-hee? Okay, the Mo Soo-hee. I think it's Mo Soo-hee. I got to double check that. Toxic. But toxic is maybe the superficial word when it's a very sad relationship. What I don't understand actually, because we don't get to see it, is why she decided what she did. I think she kind of shares, she wanted to do everything for him. But after a while, you don't believe that. And I have shared with you guys that at the end of the day, I'm harsher on parents because at the end of the day, parents or the adults are responsible for the children, their behavior. That's a lot of responsibility on parents, but that's when you become a parent, you take that responsibility. So I tend to get angrier at the mother and why Eun Sung, came out the way he did and became the antagonist at the end and had a sad ending because of parenting, so that's why parenting is so important. So her behavior was, I think, very greed driven. And do you see that too? I was trying to think of like real life case study examples of things like that, like of a hostile takeover of a family. Not quite to that extent, but parents and families being broken up over, for instance, a will. And maybe you're part of that. You've had that happen to you, but do you know how many families I've counseled post will and post death where they should be grieving, but they're arguing over money, And so it's kind of similar in that sense. And I think she just had such a terrible life. She was a single mom, obviously, right? So she wanted to not have that. And also, yes, part of that was to have to provide a better life for her son. But along the way, he became less of a priority, is what I believe, because there's no way, she left him, right? So usually some people come back and then you see that redemption of her story. No, that didn't happen. So in that sense, I think their relationship, I actually didn't blame him when he was very mean to her, threatened her. I kind of liked it. To be honest with you, as a viewer, I'm like, yeah, I would say the same thing to a mother who claims to do all this, but never actually expressed that, right? And so it was probably her own wishes projecting onto him. I say probably because we never fully saw her own story. Not really, just flashbacks, how she was with the family for decades. So that's a real hostile takeover. And the mother is just a sad case. Oh, my dog barking. A very, very, very sad case. But I feel like it's sad that he had to die. I'm not saying someone else had to die, but I'm like, that's sad. She also murdered for her son. Oh yeah, that suspension of disbelief. Hello, that's not real. Like even her taking over the chairman and all of that, and then still having some power. I remember thinking, did I miss something? She has all the money, and how did that happen? And then I'm thinking, because I didn't have time to rewatch certain episodes. And by the way, I saw 100% of this drama in Korean. So there are times when I'm like, I know we missed something. And sometimes my husband gets tired of translating certain words. So I'm like, what did I just miss? So I thought maybe I missed something, but no, I don't think they really addressed that. So that's not realistic. Her taking over that, she had power of attorney, but then she lost it. But then, yes, she had all this power. So that, and had all this money, maybe because she stole that money is what I'm saying, but I'm rambling right now. But yes, a terrible family life. The truth is there is so much to that he could have been better if they actually had some reconciliation, even as an adult, even during her hostile takeover, if there's some sort of moment that they had, but it never was like that, right? I don't think she ever addressed her abandonment. Abandonment is very key. Can you go on to the next question as I answer this one? Abandonment kids is a common theme in K-drama. I don't know how to answer that if it's a real life fact because it's not like the family that I know, no, nobody's abandoned, but I think it makes for good storytelling, but I think there is some of that sacrifice, meaning families can emotionally abandon, sorry, parents can emotionally abandon their kids for the sake of their education. So they're there, but they're not there. And so I think that truly exists. I mean, that happened in my family too, right? Very loving parents, but emotionally detached when they wanted me to like do certain things and succeed. Hence, which is why, uh, being raised in a Korean American household was very difficult, right? So I think that exists, but not necessarily so much the physical abandonment, unless we're talking adoption, giving kids up. But I don't see that. So that's my best way of answering that. Oh my God, I'm seeing all these. Okay, let's go on to, oh, why is he so obsessed with Hain? Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, maybe she was the only one. I say maybe because I'm trying to think of other things, but she was the one who showed him such compassion. He, defended her when he was a child, that childhood connection, and probably on the spot appreciated someone doing that for him. And he never had that, which I think is very sad. And sad because that's why that was the only person maybe he loved, and then obviously the love became an obsession, which can happen. A love can be an obsession when that's all you have and you're grasping at straws by the end. And that's when you saw him, when he went crazy in the last scene. I was like, oh my gosh, he's such a good actor. But it kind of makes sense in this dramatic way where he already knew he lost her. He never had her to begin with, which is why every chance he got, he was trying, and every chance slipped away, he became more and more obsessed. It became this more like, I need to have her because I know I can't, Hence why the gun was shifted. Do you remember that at the end? I was like, oh no, I see it coming. You kind of saw it coming. But that's why. Because if I can't have her, no one can, right? That's like the obsession there. Hence stalking, which also happens in real life. So that's my answer to that one. Next one, because I think there's some longer ones here. Oh my God, it's like 52 minutes. Okay, I love this question. I don't specialize in psychopaths or sociopaths, so I just want to say that as a disclaimer, but it is part of my work. Yoon Eun Sang, the antagonist, the guy we're talking about, Park Sung-hoon actor, is a sociopath. The psychopath is his mom. Okay, so if I had to describe that behavior, the mom is truly a psychopath. Could care less. She murdered people, no expression, no empathy whatsoever. They can call that antisocial personality disorder. That's how it's diagnosed. I've never seen it in real life because those folks would be hardcore in psychiatric facilities, I would say. There might be like teens I've seen that could show signs of it, but I didn't diagnose them later in life. Does that make sense? So you are diagnosed with that. You show signs of it as a teen and diagnosed as a young adult. I'm sharing this so you understand that. But she is a true psychopath. He's a sociopath. So he's kind of like, has that environmental makeup of how he became who he became, sociopathic, because of an upbringing that was full of abandonment and in some sense neglect and disinterest and being in an orphan and all that stuff, right? So that's how he became, hence all his plotting, all of that made sense. I think he did kill off one character, one of the bad guys that he worked with, but that was different. That's part of a plot, so I don't want to say that's so much of his personality makeup, but everything he did was sociopathic. So they have troublesome, to say the least, behavior. And that term is real in real life. I am trying to think of certain instances where you could see sociopathic behavior in relationships. Yes, I want to say so because I'm thinking going through people. But psychopathic behavior is a little scary if you start seeing it. Meaning, if you start seeing it in a teenager, you're like, uh-oh, because those are and I'll be honest, those are the mass shooters. Those are the ones that really don't have any emotion, feeling, because that's a mental illness. And so I would say very, very difficult to treat. And from what I hear, some people have to be, in psychiatric wards for that because they've done something, or in jail. But those are the people that are the highest, or the furthest end of a case, where you never want to really see those people, right? And you'll see what they've done to people. And this is past history and news. Famous psychopaths in history, right? That that were like stalkers and killers, serial killers. Those are the psychopaths. She would be one of them. Yeah. And I'm saying it facetiously, but no, that's kind of scary behavior if I ever interacted with someone like her. Um, so a pause on this because that's a tough topic, but I answered that. Someone saying in the beginning episodes, Keanu's in-laws are critical to him, especially during family gatherings and outings where they kind of isolate him. This is relatable. How to deal with difficult family. Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother talk. So I'll do my best real quickly. I think the number one thing is how much can you handle of that? He was at his all-time low because number one, he wasn't connecting with his wife. So the number one thing is if you're part of a general in-law family, I need you to connect with your spouse first. That's your nuclear family. That's actually number one. And if you can connect with that, then it makes it much better for you to navigate a difficult extended family. We all have them. Trust me. My own extended family is difficult, extended family out there. But again, I feel closeness to my own nuclear family and I'm dictating my own family my own way. Like I'm doing my own parenting. And that's really important to, I guess, survive your overall extended family. And then if there's an in-law family base, that's really difficult. It helps you. But I'll also share this. There is a such thing as the family cutoff. It's happened. It's happened in my family where you do have to cut off some family members if emotionally it's taking such a toll, you're in distress and your mental health is declining. And so that's not a fun thing for me to say, but I can easily say it when I see somebody in that stage where I'm like, okay, so I think this relationship, it's your mom or your dad. It's devastating for me to tell you this, but I think you know that you need to cut ties. And it's always a for now because there's always a reconciliation that can happen, but sometimes never happen. And so those are the hard moments. But then I've seen happier people because of some emotional cutoffs from family. So hopefully that's me. Short way of answering that. Okay, next one. I was trying to go under an hour. Okay, next question is waiting for it. What is the next question? Okay, are we having a technical difficulty? I thought there was one more. If not, let me go to the questions in the chat box. I think the one question I think we had was the ending. If I wanted to see a different ending. Did any of you guys ask this? Okay. So that is one of my other questions. I think there it is. Okay. If you could have a different ending. That is the last question. Yes. The ending I would have wanted to see was, in all honesty, that they didn't grow old together. Actually, that's great. Very well done. I'm glad. But I would have preferred to see their life in the next 5 years. I loved seeing a child. That was great. I think I expected that, but I would have loved to see them have a child or get pregnant and maybe show that joy and then a family develop. And then you see maybe 5 years. And then you just know they're on that path. Does that make sense? I think skipping it is fine and showing that they went the distance. Like my husband loved that. But I was like, as a family therapist, I would have wanted to see how they navigated things post-illness, post-memory loss, and then having a child together. That kind of thing. That's all. That was just how I would have wanted to see the ending. And then two, I would have wanted to see them address the death of their baby or how they handled that miscarriage. Would have been great. But don't forget, I just realized this. She lost her memory. So probably by episode 16, it was a moot point. She couldn't discuss it. And I don't think he would have brought it up because that's painful to bring up to somebody who lost their memory. But they could have addressed it maybe in episodes 12 to 14 when they were, in that fun part of the relationship. But they didn't. And so I would have wanted to see a little bit more of that. I also thought, I forgot to mention this, brilliant. So did my husband when they erased her memories with a little bit of a burning page. Do you remember that? It was like you saw the flashbacks of their relationship burning away the memory. I thought that was so cool. I was like, because how do you do that? How do you show that she really did lose her memory from the surgery? That was going to be a thing that would happen. So I loved that. I honestly love the ending. It was unique for K-drama. The music and cinematography carried it out beautifully. Yeah, definitely. There's some replicants of Crash Landing because it's written by the same author, same writer. So I think that's normal. But I'm trying to think what else. Okay, so yeah, that's the only thing. That would be the only thing about the ending that I wanted to see them kind of enjoy their life. And I think some of you said that as well. You want to see their happy moments. And so probably could have seen maybe one episode of that. Anyways, There's 2 special episodes coming. I believe we're able to see them, so that'll be this weekend, and hopefully you can enjoy that. I think I addressed all the questions. I was trying to go not more than an hour, but let me now go through the chat box real quick. I really think there's an aspect of confusion between selfless. So, okay, that's a great thing. So let me show this. Um, in the Korean culture, especially, sometimes being harsh on parenting is meant to be more selfless, but there is a balance and there's a difference. And so this aspect of Unsung's mom, I don't believe was selfless. Does that make sense? That's my opinion. It's how I saw it because the selfless, you would see it as a viewer. The redemption arc would be there would be like, wow, it was all the sacrifice, but we didn't really see that. So I would say, no, it was probably selfish, her own projection of a plan to definitely give her son a better life, but then it all had to happen to her own like yearning for what she wanted to have, or maybe her own regret of what she didn't have. But I do want to address that because in Korean dramas, you tend to see a very harsh way of acting to a child or family member, but then you see behind the scenes a parent so full of emotions and sorrow and sadness because they're so harsh to their child, right? All because they want them to have a better life. That is the classic Korean culture. You see it all the time, even currently in like the harshness of education. But you like, for me, I get to see the behind the scenes of family members tortured for their child, which, I can't always share, but that's the truth, and that's why I love group sessions because people will see, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this way too. And I wish I was a better mom. And that guilt and shame is so prevalent in the culture that all runs with this selflessness that really is about sacrifice and really commitment to the family. But it just comes out in such a way that isn't healthy. I mean, that's the truth. Like, I wish there was better ways to show that. I believe there is, hence my work, right? But it shouldn't always be in that selfless tone of full-on sacrifice. The show was a rough one. So let me conclude with this. Folks have shared with me they can't start the show because it's so emotional. It's so full of emotion. Queen of Tears. The tears can be healthy though. Maybe you're holding back tears. And I'll tell you, I just love even crying, watching like, I don't know, a quarter of a scene, and then you start crying. And then the end of the scene, you laugh. That's just healthy emotions expressing from a show, which you can do in the comfort of your Netflix, your bed, your living room that we otherwise can't do in real life. That also helps you kind of give you the epiphany. Sorry, showing my book. Hence, why they can transform you because you realize something from that expression of emotion. For instance, the biggest thing I tend to hear is, oh my God, I had no idea that I was angry, or I had no idea that I never processed this in my life. I hear that all the time until they see a K-drama. Or stories like, powerful stories like, I got so sick that it really did a physical number to me because of something I was going through because I was holding it in. It impacted me physically, which, by the way, can happen for sure. Physical health, so important to your mental health, all aligns. That at the end of the day, it's really important to figure out how to express. And that's why I use K-dramas. Hence, me going back to this. Okay, now what did Sophie say that everyone's like, I agree. I want to see this. Oh, the end left us with the loss again, even if in old ages, to see the 5 years would have led us more positive, at least for me. That's just me. And that's me wanting to see even 10 years and how they live it. Like maybe they have their kid is in elementary school. I think they did that with When the Camellia Blooms. They flash forwarded 20 years and that was okay there. But this one, I think we wanted to see a little bit more of the healing take place and how she was able to live without memory, thank goodness for journaling. And so that all is really important to journal some of your favorite memories. Do you know that's a trauma coping mechanism to journal your trauma story? And I'm sharing this because it all aligns with your memory. You would think, why would I want to remind myself of a traumatic memory? Well, that's actually important for healing. You recall it the way you want. You go, that's what happened. That was horrific. Let me move on. Meaning, how am I going to heal now? Because I wrote that all down. That's actually a key trauma skill, having someone write their story. So I like that journal part and how it came back to her. There's lots of good moments I love. Absolutely love the aunt. Pomja, don't you love her? And it took me a while to recognize her. And then I realized, oh my God, she's from Crash Landing and she's from Tale of the Nine-Tailed. And I didn't recognize her because of her bangs and all that stuff, but really, really highlighted her character, loved her. I loved her range of emotions. Okay, that was actually in my notes, and I'm glad I thought of it. I absolutely thought she was brilliant in showing her emotions. You can learn from her, actually, showing the anger, frustration, yelling, to the softness, to the empathy, to the compassion she had, to the gripping, sorrow she felt for her dad. And all of that was great to see in a K-drama, right? And that's why we loved her, because we saw her expressing emotion that you don't see otherwise in other characters. So I think that's why she was really popular. Just great acting, but she showed every emotion under the sun, was outrageous, said some crazy things, but crazy things we would think to say, but not say them. She did that. Isn't it great to have those characters? And obviously she was a wonderful person. So I'm coming to Houston this summer. I think it's end of July. Yeah, at the hottest time. So I'll stay tuned. I'll be posting about that. I think that's it. Not really. No, I have something K-Drama Rex. Real quick, K-Drama Rex, Lovely Runner. And then Chief Detective 1958. I did not start Chief Detective 1958, but it's all the rage in Korea and it's super funny and it's based on a really popular show. Hold on, don't leave this live. I realized I forgot something. I have a huge announcement. It's because I'm so tired. And I was so busy on the deep dive. So mental health was my focus. I have a huge, huge announcement. And you're going to see it play right here. So people on this live will get to see a video right now. And immediately after this live, I'll post it on Instagram. But go ahead and watch this. And I'm not going to tell you what the announcement is. You're going to see it. Stay tuned. That's the announcement, folks. It's going to go live shortly. Yes, 2025 tours. Here we come, planning well in advance because I need to plan well in advance. And you saw it. You saw it here first. BTS Army, where are you? Get ready for some cool tours next year and Jeju. So those are the new ones added to our regular classic ones. Waitlist is now open. I'm going to post shortly, so I'm going to say goodbye now. I was actually getting emotional looking at the video because, guys, the fact that I'm doing more tours is huge. So I cannot wait to see you guys, hopefully again in 2025. I'll see you on my book tour. So excited. Please, please keep me in your prayers as I travel, because as I travel, I'll be like, what city and time zone am I in? Most of the time I'm going by myself. I will reunite with my husband in Los Angeles. Like, we haven't seen enough of each other, but his family's in LA. And then New York, I'm also on my own. So traveling on my own. And sometimes that's fun and sometimes it's not. But I cannot wait to see you guys, meet you in Jeju, meet you in the Magic Shop, meet you in Korea 2025. Sign up and look for the reel shortly. See you guys soon.